Hey, everybody, welcome to Monsters Lounge. I'm Jenny.
Hi, I'm Tressa.
Tressa, you doing okay over there? You seem all
Yup,
right?
I'm good.
Okay, that's good. Okay, I'm moving forward regardless.
Thank you.
Hey, do we have a guest on tonight?
Yes,
That's
we
not a question,
do.
it's just a real statement.
Oh,
We've got a pretty good guest. So this guy just came out with this book, Haunted War Tales. I've read a few chapters out of it, not the whole thing, but I tend to go towards what interests me first, and then I read
oh,
the
yeah.
rest.
What
Haunted War
were
Tales,
there
true.
chapters
What?
that you enjoyed more than others?
You know what? There were.
Huh,
There were some.
huh.
It's true military encounters with the bizarre, paranormal, and unexplained. So I heard Haunted War Tales, and I
Mm-hmm.
just thought it was ghosts,
Yeah, yeah.
but it's not. There's so much more. Our guest
Right.
tonight is R.C. Bramhall, and he is a United States Army intelligence veteran, a former Outward Bound lead instructor, juvenile probation officer, and a gifted and talented educator and consultant who has a Master's of Education from SMU and a BA in Criminal Justice from the University of West Florida. Originally from the Pittsburgh area, he currently resides in Dallas. And I'm super excited to talk to him about all kinds of war stuff that's
Heck
cryptid and
yeah.
haunted and all of those
Let's
things.
get
So
into it.
help me welcome him.
Okay.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Why am
All
I the only
right.
one clapping now?
I was busy drinking coffee and I
Oh,
forgot that we clap. There. Is that better?
better. Thank
You
Awesome.
you.
happy
Yes.
now?
I have to say, like, I wish the Monsters Lounge was like a real dive bar, right? Because that
Me
would definitely be
too.
my vibe. Some
Oh
shots
my
with
God.
Watch or drinks with Dogman. Right? We need to make that
Yes.
happen. I think we need like a real place.
I think
Listen, let's
so.
get this started.
Let's get to it.
GoFundMe. What's the
Some
other one?
investors.
Let's do it. Yes.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it in someplace warm, though. I don't really
Okay.
want to be in Chicago with
In
all of
Chicago.
these. Yeah.
You can be Skunk Ape
What's
themed.
warmer
It's
in
fine.
Dallas?
All right. Bingo. There we go. Closer
Yeah.
to the water, too, I think. So I'm really excited about what it is, I
Yeah,
feel
you're
like.
right. You're
Yeah.
right.
So I was really excited about this book because when we first chatted via email, I was like, oh, okay, it's going to be about ghost stories. And you were like,
Right.
hang on there. It is about all sorts of paranormal things occurring around wartime, battlefields, any sort of, you know, obviously military. So and then I started thinking about it, and that makes a lot of sense because a lot of reports that we get about various cryptids or UFOs or things come from military,
For sure.
which is really, really cool. And I kind of started, I know words.
Let's say, just adding to that, when you're no matter where you are, when you're in the military, if you're kind of doing fire watch on base, if you're pulling guard duty, if you're in a training exercise and you're kind of taking on, opposing forces, or if you're in combat, you're always in kind of a heightened awareness, a constant kind of paranoid awareness. So I think that might be one of the reasons, there's so many encounters is because our guys are searching so hard and being so observant that normally things that you would miss, they spot and
Absolutely.
see these things that are occurring for sure.
I mean, that's got to be the case. Like, you have to be hyper aware of your surroundings,
Exactly.
opposed to like the regular dum dum down the street who's just like walking his dog. Absolutely.
For sure.
Well, I liked a lot of the stories that started off with sort of military gear, like night vision goggles and like
Right.
heat signature things. Do you have a favorite story that involves something being seen through one of those other tools?
For sure. When it comes to the creatures, what's interesting is, these things are registering on thermals. So there's
Which is
something
so
there,
great.
right? I mean,
The
there's something
the
there.
extra evidence is so fun. I love it so
Exactly.
much.
Like it
Yeah.
wouldn't be giving off a heat signature if there
Mm.
wasn't something actually there. Now, what it is or what they thought they saw, it could be misconstrued. Um, as we all know, how we perceive things has there's so many things that influence that based on our own belief systems, sleep deprivation,
Sure.
nervousness, how things fill in kind of our visual bias. Like you ever look at a sign, you think you read something, but your brain kind of fills in things. So,
Yeah.
that's definitely an element too that may explain some of the strange things that, it's something in your mind that you thought you saw a monster, but it was a tree, or, you thought you saw this creature. And I even talked about that in the book, right? With
Mm-hmm.
experience with the alligator and kind of getting that kind of a thought into your head, and then how that makes you see things in nature, that resemble those shapes of those monsters that you think you see.
Absolutely. I like how you touch on some of these things in the book that certainly people have heard of, but are kind of proven untrue and not real. But you do mention how fun they are to think about. Like off the top of my head, you talk about like the camel spiders, which I'm sure everyone's seen those sort of viral photos of these massive
For sure.
spiders that come after people. But another one that you go into is the gremlins.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was good.
Yeah, can you expand on that a little bit? Maybe let our audience know like what those are and what those
Yeah,
sightings
for
kind of
sure. So,
were
that
about.
it's obviously, pretty well known cryptid, right, from the movies, pretty well known within popular culture. And that's what I find so strange about it, is, I mean, it's so bizarre and outlandish, right? I mean,
Yeah.
little creatures like tearing your plane apart. But when you start looking at the history, like, it started in the 1920s, basically, when people first started flying, these things started to be reported.
One
And
of
it
the
got,
best things about that is
what's
that
that?
watching one of the best things about the whole Gremlins thing is I remember as a child watching that movie and being like, yeah, yeah, yeah. I want to hear the old guy tell the more stories about back in the war because that's the good part.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they should have made
I
a
would.
prequel. Yeah,
Yeah,
the
right?
Gremlins in World War II,
Oh my
right? How
God.
cool would that have been?
Hold on, I gotta write
Um,
that down.
and there's that little Twilight Zone part of the Twilight Zone
Oh,
movie too,
right.
Mm-hmm.
classic one.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a bizarre phenomenon. So many pilots reported it within the British Army, especially during the Battle of Britain, that like the British Army actually created like a manual for their
Really?
pilots, like to deal with gremlin behavior. It's legit. You can go
That's
find it.
amazing.
Again, was it, tongue in cheek? Was it some kind of morale booster? I
That's
don't know,
right.
but you find lots of reports, and especially within. Let me look the name of the high altitude photographic reconnaissance units. So these are the real high altitude planes, like
Yeah.
really up there. And these guys claim, like, all the excuses that people would say, again, like oxygen deprivation, being that high, maybe, you hallucinate, you see things. But, entire crews of guys, like there's one story where this pilot saw this thing, described it in full, saw it like hammering away at the fuselage of the airplane, and was afraid to tell anyone when he landed because obviously they think he was insane. And one
Right.
of his like gunners, mentioned like that he saw this thing before the pilot had a chance to, and so they both collaborated their stories. So I don't know, it's a bizarre thing. And then strangely enough, after World War II, no more reports.
That
Yeah.
is weird.
And American
It is.
pilots too. I forget the name, but there was a famous like violinist at the time, and they even the nickname of that violinist, that's what American pilots would call the Gremlins. So
Was
Oh,
it
that's
Yo-Yo Ma?
yeah. It was Yo-Yo Ma
Is he
back
playing
in
violin? I don't know. I don't know.
1920. Do you think it was so prevalent within like the British like Royal Air Force because there's such a history of fairy and
Oh,
folklore there?
really interesting perspective. I never thought of that. You just bringing that up.
Nice.
It fits within the culture there more. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just
man,
I'm just
I'm
gonna
sweating.
quietly go high five myself for that one.
Now I
That's
And
want to know what the Iceland Air Force is like. Oh, that's gotta be crazy over there. They don't have an Air Force, do
they have trolls on the plane.
they? I love that
there's
movie.
another movie, Trolls on a
So
Plane.
good. I'm gonna need to write that down, Tressa. We got to work on that too. There's a lot of movie ideas going
Um,
around over here.
Going back to your first question, because I realized I didn't answer it, talking about the thermals.
Oh,
You asked if there was anything
I
interesting.
got excited.
Well, I did too. But the like going along with kind of the Afghanistan Bigfoots, which are called the Barmanu regionally in Pakistan and Afghanistan. Our guys had several bizarre, registers on their thermals. Like one of the stories, our guys are kind of overwatching this village, and across the mountain, across the valley, kind of same altitude, our scout kind of spots this huge heat signature on the side of the mountain. So it's so large that he figures it's a group of people like sitting together, kind of grouped
shut
together, right?
up.
So he wakes up the other guys in the squad. Let's keep an eye on this group, see what's going on. The whole squad watches this thing for like 10, 15 minutes. It didn't move. Then all of a sudden they saw this huge heat signature get up as one thing and like walk over the crest of the hill. So that's pretty
What? I like that.
Yeah, that's wild.
That makes me very happy. The next thing that I was really excited about, and I don't know if it's because I watched a little movie called Dog Soldiers, and it's
one of my
good.
favorites.
Yeah,
Neil
it's
Marshall.
so good. So good. But the idea of werewolves at battlefields.
Yeah, quite a few like large canine type creatures. Some really cool stories with that too. Going back to the Hound of Mons, it was in World War One. So kind of a terrifyingly like large cryptid dog like thing that supposedly would attack the British soldiers. They found like 5 soldiers with their throats ripped out, and they would hear these howls, sometimes near the British line, sometimes closer to the German. And after the war, there were some outlandish stories, but it could have possibly been like a trained attack dog. Germans did use dogs during the war. Could have been an unnaturally large one, but that's a pretty wild story. The Hound of Mons. The Morbach Monster. Do you want to say something about that?
Oh, no, I was just going to wonder about the British and their love of hounds as a villain.
The Hounds of the Baskerville.
Yeah, hounds of Baskerville.
Oh,
Like, there were
gotcha.
always hounds wandering around.
You're right.
Like out on the moors.
Hellhounds are in
Yeah.
England.
All over the place. Just hounds.
No,
All right,
like
but do
it.
continue.
Like, settle down with the animals. It's fine.
The hounds, leave them alone. They're dogs, man. They're just trying to be dogs.
So the Morbach Monster is a more recent one. So this is at the Hahn Air Force Base, which was in kind of central Germany. So we're not there anymore. We handed it back over in the mid 90s. But for about 40 years, had a major Air Force base there, and really cool like backstory to this one. It goes all the way back to like 1812, 1813. Supposedly a deserter from Napoleon's army escaped Russia with some other Russians, right? And they returned to Europe. So they're coming through Germany, kind of robbing people, murdering, raping, and they basically find a family and murder the whole family. And the mother, is some type of witch or gypsy, of course, right? That's usually the
Yeah.
flavor of the story, and puts this curse on this guy and tells him like, you're the monster that you are will slowly be revealed. You'll become what your soul
I
is,
like
this
her.
dark evil monster. Right? Yeah. So over the
It's a
next
good curse.
course of a month, supposedly this gang of brigands running around, he became so sadistic and evil they couldn't even hang with him anymore. So he kind of like became like this beast, and started to actually grow hair and everything else. And raped and murdered like a daughter of this real prominent family in Morbach, this town in Germany. So the townspeople hunted the guy down, killed him, buried him at a crossroads, and then built a shrine. And they leave a candle burning. And if the candle ever goes out, the werewolf will return, right?
Oh no.
So, yeah. So cool story. Okay. But so when you start looking into it, there is an actual shrine there, but they're like these real like small Catholic shrines. They're pretty common throughout Germany and different parts of Europe. And they do like burn candles there. So, that's probably how that story got started. And from what it appears, when you look at the German population, it's not their story. It was kind of created by the American GIs. And but going along with that, there are a couple, like real incidents that are unexplainable. Some MPs with a guard dog, like several witnesses claimed that, they saw this like 6 or 7 foot tall dog man type creature jump a fence on base, and that the dogs were terrified of it.
Let's
couple
get
other
some
guys.
radar on that ground, see if there's some werewolf bones underneath that.
Right?
Seriously, can we just go? That seems terrible to say. Let's go dig that up, but let's go.
No, but let's dig that up.
Yeah, you can go see the shrine there. Another group of guys, I think it was like 3 soldiers. They were walking back to base after like going out drinking one night, and heard something following them, like through the woods. And it was definitely like walking on 2 legs, but it didn't sound human, like just the gait, the heavy way it was walking, I guess. So they kind of got freaked out, go up in a tree, and they see this thing walk by, kind of the same thing, like I suppose like a dog man thing with like hooved feet. And they watch this thing. Yes. And they watch this thing cross
Dogs
the road.
don't have hooves?
Right? Well, exactly. Right. So don't know what we're dealing with there.
No, that's scarier is what I'm saying. What? No, I don't like it. I mean, I love it, but I don't want to.
Yeah, I mean, there was about 30 seconds there where I was going to make up a completely new dog breed and convince you that this dog breed had hooves, but
I would have believed you. It's
I know.
fine. You can do that.
I wanted to be transparent about that one.
I appreciate it.
And then even going into Iraq and Afghanistan, I think I have about 3 or 4 different reports of like either really huge dog-like creatures, like cow-sized, like
Nice.
insanely, like 4 foot tall off the ground. And then some bizarre, almost like chupacabra type creatures, like monkey faced, dog body, kind of weird things. Several times seen in Iraq. So always something out there.
Yeah, apparently.
Quite a bit. Quite a bit.
There's a lot going on, Karen. It's the Monsters Lounge.
It is. Now, I've held off on this one because it's kind of one of my favorite things in the whole wide world, but there are so many stories of military, especially submarines, running into things down deep in the ocean, which, as we know, the ocean is mostly unexplored, and there's all sorts of big stuff down there, like, I don't want to name names, but Megalodon.
Oh, you always want to name that name.
I do. I want to.
Cthulhu.
Yeah, that one too. Or even plesiosaurs, whatever might be down there. But please tell us some stories of the ocean and mayhem.
Yeah. Some submarine stories for sure, right? Pretty convincing one from World War One. This German U-boat, U-28. It was 1915. And they sank this British ship, the SS Iberian. When they sank the ship, it went down so fast, it kind of went vertical and just kind of went straight down, and something exploded. And so, there's about 12 Germans on the deck of their sub, on it had surfaced, that saw this thing, this creature thrown out of the water with the explosion. They said it was about a 60-foot long, like what would look like a crocodile, like a giant crocodile. And, there is a species of dinosaur that exactly matches that. I'm not good at pronouncing such things, right? I think
Yeah, go for it, though.
a Thalattosuchia, but it's from the
It's
early
okay.
Jurassic. So basically called a sea crocodile. But yeah, because again, multiple witnesses, and actually, like the commander recorded it, in the official ship's journal that they saw this thing for about 15 to 20 seconds in bright sunshine. So pretty interesting.
These stories are fascinating to me because we take a look at just how much of the ocean, like I said, is not explored, but also
I think they say what 80%,
yeah,
which is
80%.
mind blowing.
Right?
And the fact that so many new and large species are being discovered on a regular basis. And then you take a look at some of the plausibility of perhaps some of these, creatures from like the Jurassic period having continued on and sort of evolved through the time. So I'm totally on board with a giant sea crocodile.
We just got sent this article like a month or two ago that was just some scientists in Australia, just off Australia.
Uh-huh.
21 days. They discovered like 120 plus new species of just
Wow.
stuff. Like, and that's granted mostly small stuff, but we know nothing,
No, it's
nothing
for real.
about the
No.
ocean.
And
There's
even
no way.
there's so many places, so many land. Again, it's like, yeah, somebody probably has come through those areas, but no one's really spent time exploring. And, just
Yeah.
like it's the same thing in the Amazon or any
Mm.
jungle, rainforest. So many new species are
Or
discovered
big box
every day.
store. Oh,
Well, they just discovered or just recognized a new species of anaconda.
Wow.
really?
That's bigger. It's like I think it's the southern anaconda. But
Yes.
yeah,
I don't think it's hard to believe at all that there's things
No.
down in the ocean. I mean, the depth and our inability to really go down there and check things out, like, no doubt, there's got to be giant prehistoric things down there.
yeah. Well, I mean, the giant squid is another one that was just rumored and stories told until finally somebody caught it on camera, and that wasn't that long ago either.
Right.
What year was that, Jenny?
Oh, I have no idea. Why would I? Why would I ever remember a year? What year
Because
is it
you
now? I don't know.
1983.
It is.
Uh,
It is 1983.
wouldn't that be nice? Do it all over again.
Nope. No, yuck. No, thank you.
So I know that there's more ocean stories, and I want to hear them.
Yeah. So a more recent, a Soviet sub called K-219. This was in 1986, kind of down, I think, in the Bermuda Triangle. And you may have heard of this before, but there is this bizarre, like, underwater sound that has been picked up many times by,
Yeah.
international military, not just one country. But they call it a quacker, this sound, because that's how they describe it. A combination of like a raspy quack and a frog croak.
Okay, maybe
So
I'll go know about it then, if that's what
Well,
it is.
yeah, because I was thinking of, is it the bloop?
Yeah, that's what
Is
I was
that?
thinking.
yeah, and that's
Yeah,
a
that's what
different
I
one.
was
Yep.
thinking about. Yeah.
Well, this quacker, and like literally it was so common with the Soviets that they even, like, a lot of the Soviet sailors believed if you listened to it too long you would go insane. Like, there was a lot of stuff. So anyway, they would hear the sound but not pick anything up on sonar. But this thing, the sound would kind of follow them, trail them. And in this incident in 86, a torpedo actually, like, exploded from something puncturing the side of the sub. So it damaged the sub. They had to surface, and they actually found, like, scratch marks on the outside of the sub.
Oh.
Yeah.
So how is it
Unexplainable.
not picked up on sonar? Like, because in my brain, sonar is
unexplainable.
like very good at finding things. Like,
Exactly. Yeah. It
and
would
I
be
don't really know.
unexplainable without some kind of, like, cloaking device, right, or something.
Yeah. Some sort of, I'm going to go with it, evolutionary advantage.
Hey, you never know.
Also,
more
why
technological.
are
Yeah.
these unknown noises named things that are hilarious when you're not in the water,
The
but
bloop and the quacker.
probably terrifying when you're in the water?
Because it's funny. Jenny,
Yeah.
come on. Scientists
right.
are hilarious.
they,
And
they are the funniest.
if they're known for nothing, it's being hilarious.
Comics of the smarts. That's what I call them.
Yeah. And sailors. What's the proper name? I don't know.
Anyway, yeah. So, do we have any more of the ocean stories? Because
No, that was
those are
about it. I didn't
Okay.
have that many ocean. There's a cool, one of my favorites that's, ocean related. The Japanese in 1943, they were in, I think it's the Key Islands, KEI, but it's part of Indonesia. Several incidents with these like manfish creatures, right? That locals actually have a name for. They call them the orang ikan. And
Which is translated roughly to what? Do you know?
I don't know. I don't speak Japanese. I'm sorry.
Oh,
But the
we
orang
asked everybody,
ikan, and like totally out of like the creature of the Black Lagoon, kind of like a fished man, like they
So
had
not
like
like a
human-like
merman.
face, but scales and fish-like and all that stuff.
Oh, like
Um,
what?
So 3 separate encounters that the Japanese recorded. A unit supposedly ran into one like in a lagoon in the interior of the island, fired at it, and another one kind of came up out of the water. Another Japanese soldier thought he saw a human child on the beach at night. And when the thing turned around, he saw it wasn't. It was a creature, and it like ran into the ocean and disappeared. And then the most interesting one that this Japanese sergeant actually recorded in his journals, supposedly a dead one had washed up on the shore, and the locals displayed it for the Japanese soldiers to look at it. So he recorded in like detail, the description of this thing. And then even when he returned to Japan after the war, he literally tried to get like some scientific interest in returning to the island and trying to, like investigate it further, and couldn't get anyone to believe him.
What year was that roughly?
This was in 1943 is when these incidents were reported.
What? What? Did he have a camera? Was he just writing down a description?
Yeah, just it's just a journal, like a
He didn't have a
entry.
cell phone?
No, didn't have a cell
I was
phone back then.
Oh man, you'd think that they'd be like, "Hey, get that guy with the camera over here ASAP."
For sure,
But
right?
I
That's
didn't.
always the question with some of these things,
Yeah, I mean, whatever, it's fine. I'm not mad about it.
I don't know. You sound pretty mad
But
about
I
it.
think
Shut up,
that's
Jenny.
about all my ocean-related creatures, cryptids.
Well, Jenny's gonna leave now.
Yeah. And that's it for me.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Oh,
Tressa.
no, you guys go ahead.
I don't
Wow.
know if you got to the section of the vampires in Afghanistan. That was kind of interesting.
I'm sorry, what? I did not get to that
All
section.
right.
You know what? Hold on real quick.
Okay.
What a great thing to talk about when we come back from this break.
After the break.
The Oregon Bigfoot Festival and Beyond is back and bigger than ever at Oaks Amusement Park, Saturday, June 29th. Meet Bigfoot hunters like Ronnie LeBlanc of Discovery Channel's Expedition Bigfoot and Paranormal Caught on Camera, and paranormal investigators like me, Dave Schrader of the Holzer Files and the Paranormal 60 podcast. Join us for a day of family fun celebrating Bigfoot, ghosts, UFOs, and everything beyond. You never know what you'll find. Don't miss the Oregon Bigfoot Festival and Beyond, Saturday, June 29th at Oaks Amusement Park. Get tickets today at OregonBigfootFest.com. OregonBigfootFest.com.
The Oregon Bigfoot Festival. Oregon Bigfoot Festival.
Are you troubled by strange noises in the middle of the night? Do you experience feelings of dread in your basement or attic? Have you or your family ever seen a spook, spectre, or ghost? Then Haunted Magazine issue 41 might just be for you. In issue 41 we have The Enfield Haunting, an interview with Dave Schrader, Danny Robbins, and lots more. Out now in stores, app stores, and online at bit.ly/Haunted Magazine. Remember, don't be normal, be paranormal.
So I heard a rumor about vampires. What's up with that? Was that a terrible? I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. I was just going to mention that we're probably going to see people at the
Oh,
Bigfoot
Jay,
Festival, but
who's going to be at that Bigfoot festival?
I
Aside
believe
from Dave Schrader.
I believe we
Ron
are.
Is that true?
It is true. Although
Are we
no
going to be
one's
speaking? Yeah,
no.
Yeah,
But
if
we'll
you
be
see
wandering
us,
around.
Yeah, just grab us.
You need to
and
be at that Bigfoot festival.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Anyway, I heard a rumor about vampires. Tell me about that. I'm not getting better at this.
All right, so I kind of came across this cool newspaper article from a reporter that had been in Iraq, like embedded with troops, and it basically he had been approached when he was leaving Iraq in the airport. He'd been approached by this kind of strange soldier who just out of the blue, not knowing who he was, that he was a reporter or anything, just started telling him about these vampires in Afghanistan, right? That the locals believed in these creatures and that, it was accepted and that they had.
Wait, I got a question. Are these vampires he was telling them about, were they a product of the war or they
No.
just
So he's
been
basically
there?
saying like these things that existed there in Iraq, like they're like kind of an ancient, almost like
Oh,
its own species, right?
got it.
So he tells a reporter about this kind of matter of factly that these things were around. The locals believed in them. They believed in them too, like his unit or whatever. And that was it, right? Then the reporter strangely got very like physically ill after he spoke to the kid, which he just put into the article because it was so out of character. Like he had to go throw up in the bathroom and just
Oh,
was disturbed by the story. So that just kind of led me to kind of start checking in, like what, is there any reports or anything that I could find to go along with this? And what I did find is that, like there is within the culture, there's there entity, this creature that they call a ghoul, but not like spelled like we do. It's Ghul, or a gula, Ghulah. So they're usually feminine, kind of like the succubus type,
yeah.
vampire like, shining like kind of blood red eyes is kind of like their MO. And they usually are found in like wilderness areas, like far removed from civilization. So what's interesting about that is, there's several reports of our guys like seeing these red-eyed things, showing them, like they'd see these bright red lights. When they try to put their night vision on them, it would be like, it would actually like, they'd have to take it off. It would blind them, like it was so powerful. But then when they would like look, they wouldn't see the thing. So just found a couple of those reports that kind of went along with the description of what those entities are supposed to be like. And they're actually like from pre-Islamic Arabian like religion, like, ancient kind of like Bedouin folklore and such. So, they like existed kind of even before the Islamic religion came into the area. And that's what the locals believe, is they're kind of like this ancient species that lives out in the desert and it like, doesn't like humans because we've forgotten the old gods and they kind of live around the old ruins and tombs. So I just thought that was pretty interesting too.
That's really interesting. I like the idea of the vampire because it's so prevalent across so many different cultures, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Like, which makes sense. I mean, it's a terrifying thought. But anytime you talk about something that's that ancient,
But that
I
is like
definitely jump
what
on
is it
board.
about vampires that are like cross cultural, cross religion. I just, like I said, it kind of always makes me pause. Anything that does that kind of crosses over cultures, crosses over religious beliefs. Like, what is that? There has to be something that, created that archetype,
Yeah,
whether it's
that
the
lore.
vampire or a
That's
werewolf man or,
right. Why does it go and like it absorbs everything? It's everywhere.
mhm.
Is it just a simple matter of people being evil and they have to attribute that to something, or is it something a little bit more?
Yeah.
Well, I've heard of like, the origins of like the vampire being, in certainly I believe in Europe being a product of consumption, right?
Yeah.
Like the illness that is consumption is tuberculosis, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Tuberculosis. Yeah.
Where there would be a wasting away and a lot of like coughing up blood and sort of spotting on blood, bedclothes and things. But that doesn't cover any of the ancient stories or, how far it goes across cultures either.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
It's
I'm with you.
interesting.
It always sounds more plausible that there's something else going on when it's so all over the place.
Yeah. And the
Right.
same
Some of,
traits.
go ahead.
That's all. Just the same traits. Like,
Okay.
again, like across cultures that they, want blood and that they're,
Someone in the chat, I'm sorry, I keep interrupting, I don't mean to.
no, go
Someone in
ahead.
the chat mentioned it could it be the jinn? But it doesn't seem like it's the jinn. It seems like a completely different thing to
Yeah,
me.
exactly. Totally different thing. Yep.
Yeah.
The Jinn are considered separate entities also,
Hmm.
almost like a interdimensional type, like
Right.
spirit. Um, and they aren't necessarily evil or good, just kind of like the genie stories that we're prone
Hmm.
to. The idea is kind of they're neutral, but they can definitely be
Right.
like chaotic and you can ask them to do certain things for you. So during the war in Iraq, there were rumors of kind of a brigade-sized unit of extremists, Islamic extremists, who did practice kind of like black magic within Islam, and would try to summon certain jinn to basically take us on, our soldiers on, the type of jinn that would attack strangers or foreigners in their land. So it was pretty interesting.
Speaking of stories that are a little bit about something being conjured up, right? What about any
Hmm.
stories of things like the golem?
Ooh, I love the golem. Isn't that a cool concept?
It really is, especially because it always seems to center around injustice, right?
For
They're
sure,
they're
exactly.
called
Yeah.
up to defend something. Did you come across anything like that, or
Well,
was that not in your
yeah, I couldn't
area?
find anything modern outside of. There's kind of like one well-known Gollum story that was set in, I think, the Warsaw Ghetto, like during World War II.
Hmm.
That's kind of like the most famous Gollum story, that this like Jewish rabbi summoned one up, and it like helped out during the Warsaw riots. But
Yeah,
that's about the only one I could come across, and that's kind of been documented in a
yeah,
few places, so I didn't include it.
yeah.
Well, I don't know about it.
Well, you know the concept of what a golem is.
Yeah, it's made out of clay, right? And
Yeah,
it's
well, it's just like within the Jewish religion, it's like
yeah.
you could breathe life into this. You can kind of create this clay figure and go through all these rituals, and it's a long, involved process to basically put life into it, and then,
Can you detail that
like Jenny
process
said,
more
it's kind of
often?
like an Avenger. I wish I had the formula. I
Hmm.
try to make one.
We'll get on that for you, Tressa. We'll start to look that up, and
Thank you.
yeah.
I could use my
And
own personal golem.
Who couldn't? Get out of here.
I always feel like it has some sort of bad effect there's some sort of turnaround. You sacrifice something.
Yeah, you always have to, don't you?
Yeah, everything's great all the time. I don't know what you're talking about.
All right. All right now. So in the book, and this certainly makes a great deal of sense, because military units can be in such remote areas, right? Encountering various things that are not known to us, like lost tribes or remnants of you had some interesting things about humanoid, like, sort of descendants and Neanderthals in the book. A lot of stuff going on in the Ural Mountains.
Yeah, for
Seems
sure.
like
Yep.
Russia's got a lot of sort of, yeah. All I can say is humanoid remnants from
Yeah.
prior species.
It's like I think, again, when people who only know Bigfoot, right? America's neo-giant Bigfoot, right?
America's
They're
sweetheart, yes.
yeah, it's America's
America's boyfriend, I think you mean.
Yes, I did mean that. Thank you.
great hair, great hair.
Absolutely.
It's like most people don't realize that this is an international phenomenon, that these things
Yeah.
are seen everywhere, right?
Yes.
And so, each different region of the world has their own kind of, hairy hominin. In Russia, I give the whole history of Neanderthal, like populations that we know existed in certain areas in Russia, some of the last remaining groups of Neanderthals, right? And in those same exact areas where we find evidence of them having lasted longer than previously discovered are the same exact areas where these things are seen, and is it that hard to, like, maybe it's a possibility that there's some relic, that they, again, in these mountainous areas where people aren't living, the almas are what they're called in Russia. And like I said, they're more human-like. They're not hair covered. They're shorter. They seem to be more like Neanderthal. And there's several convincing reports going all the way back to the 1920s through World War II into the 1950s. Several military encounters of, shooting and killing a few of them. There was one really convincing one where a Soviet officer talks about this wild man. They didn't know what to do with it. He, kind of inspected it, agreed that it wasn't human, but had, 100 other things to worry about. So ordered it executed and let's move on. We got a war. Like, there were more important things to worry about. And, when you read reports like that, that's even more convincing to me. It's like, because it's so, like, matter of factly that they wrote this thing up, and it's like, didn't have time to deal with it.
I've got a report to write. I don't want to do this. I got this other thing to do.
Right?
I've got paperwork. I don't have time for this. Take care of it.
I like it a lot because I like it a lot because you're talking about things that are not necessarily like Yeti or, the abominable snowman or anything along those lines. It's very specifically sort of descendants of those, and you even go into us way back when, ancient peoples, ancient Homo sapiens fighting Neanderthals, which I thought was a kind of a fascinating concept. It's just stuff that has never occurred to me, right?
Yeah. There's some interesting theories about that, and of course, it's kind of considered fringe science. But there's, there is some archaeological evidence that there were, like, conflicts between Neanderthals and early humans, and that may be what stopped us from getting out and spreading, sooner. That was who was kind of, stopping our progress until we basically learned how to create weapons, kind of use numerical superiority and strategy, to overcome our physical weakness compared to the Neanderthals.
It always comes back to math. If you weren't, if I didn't need to know math, we would be so great. Right, anyway.
I don't know. I don't know what that has to do with anything. Um,
Numbers, come on, he said numbers. That means math.
all right.
Catch up.
All right. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, guys. I've let everyone down. So specifically in the Ural Mountains, with this idea that, I believe there was a story about a cave, and some soldiers. Now, where did they find? It was Russian soldiers, and they found a dead one of these things, or they
So
killed
yeah,
one.
it was near the end of the Russian Civil War, so it was like the mid 1920s, and the Soviet general was kind of chasing down the remnants of the anti-Bolshevik resistance, some of the holdouts. So they had chased this group up into those mountains. They cornered them. They knew they were in this cave, so they were about to go in. And from inside the cave, they hear screaming, several shots. Some time goes by, and then one of these anti-communists comes out of the cave and basically asks to be taken prisoner. And so, like, they ask him where his comrades are, and he basically tells them the story that they're back there in the cave, and like 3 or 4 of these man-like creatures with spears like attacked them, killed his friends. He tried to run out of the cave, and he shot one of them on the way out and killed it. So the Soviets are, like, okay, dude, whatever, just,
Okay.
you're great story, but this is over. You're a prisoner, and time to, send some of our troops in to find the rest of them. So when he, I'm sure that was a fun moment. It was probably funny until they got the order saying, like, you're going in the cave to check what happened in there. And so sure enough, they pull this dead body out of what would be an Alma. And the Soviet general, again, recorded a very detailed description. They pulled the hair, seeing if it was a costume. They, check this thing out in detail. Convinced it wasn't human. It was something else. It was a relic, some type of relic human. And again, they didn't have time to really deal with it. They buried it under rocks in front of the cave and left. But that's one of the most famous incidents, that seems to be pretty legit because it's recorded in the Soviet military annals.
Yeah.
The way I feel about it is with the military and their reports, they're not going to go out of their way to report something fake or something.
No, because, especially the stakes are too high, professionally, you can't, your career will be over, saying something crazy like that.
Absolutely.
And then just, the life or death element. There just isn't, it's not a good idea to, to pull too many hijinks or shenanigans when people are pointing guns at you, So that's what makes these things pretty convincing, that why would someone make it up?
And a shenanigan, but it's not going to be happening here. Not with this situation. But I do love a hijink.
I do love a hijink as well. However, let me just go ahead and ask this because, there's so many different theories. And of course, when I hear the Ural Mountains, I automatically think the Dyatlov Pass incident. So, and there's so many theories and infrasound and avalanche and all sorts of things. But based on all of these stories of the Alma, what do we think? Possibility?
Yeah, for sure. I remember seeing a documentary that presented that. Have you ever seen that? There's one out there, and
I've seen a few.
A lot of the photographs on that last roll of film, the very bizarre pictures, right?
Yeah.
Like taken in the woods and like things like something's following them kind of thing.
And there's one with like a very a large figure.
Exactly. Yeah. Pretty cool.
It's wild.
Well, guys, I think we just solved it right now. And that's all wrapped up. We will, the three of us, be writing a book on it very soon.
Finally explained the mystery.
Yep. We're smart.
As we're sort of wrapping up here, is there a story that we haven't brought up or something that's not in the book that you were very, very fond of that you want to share with us?
For sure. One of the coolest places, I hope to visit it someday. It's called Husa Castle, Houska, Husa Castle. And it's in the Czech Republic, just north of Prague. So this place is wild. Like you can find it online and look at pictures of it. But it was built like in the late 1200s. It's in an area where there's no strategic importance. Like there was nothing ever there for a castle to be built. And even like the construction of it, it's not built for like people to live there. There was no kitchen. And then most strange of all, it's basically built backwards. Like the defenses face inside as if it's
Oh.
keeping something inside, right? So you go all the way back.
Fascinating.
Yeah. So you go all the way back in 1541 is the first recorded history of the legend of the castle. It was called the Czech Chronicle, this book that was recorded 1541. So basically the legend is there's this hole in the ground there in the limestone that is bottomless, like that they could never find the bottom of. You could throw things down, nothing ever hits,
It's
right?
like a Chex Mills hole. I love
Yeah.
it.
So locals claim that creatures would come out of this hole too at night, like flying things and like, bizarre stuff would happen. The local like warlord or king at the time actually like made a deal with prisoners who were sentenced to death that if he would commune their sentence if they would be lowered down on a rope into the hole to see what was down there. And the ones that did it, of course, they would go like when they bring them back up, they would be insane. They, like,
Of
wouldn't get
course
down,
they would.
right?
There's no bottom.
So, so they built. They basically covered the hole with like slabs of limestone, built a chapel over it, which still stands today, and then built the castle around the chapel. So that's the legend: is that it was built backwards to keep basically these creatures from hell, basically inside, right? So the military connection is, as you know, like, the Nazi SS and that whole chapter I have on all their occult, bizarre dealings, were very interested in Husa Castle. And actually, like, as soon as the war started, they moved in and occupied it. Again, it served no strategic importance. And that special SS unit that dealt with the occult stuff called the Annenerba, were there for the whole time from 1939 until the very end of the war at 1945, up to the last minute, and they destroyed all their records of the experiments and things they've been doing there. But the legends, give it the idea that the Nazis were trying to basically, open a portal there or try to access whatever this thing was.
Is that where the Nazi bell was?
No, I don't think so.
I don't know.
But you can visit this castle today. You can actually go to the chapel, and people still claim they hear, voices from under
I
the
wanna go there
floor,
real
scratches.
Oh, yeah.
Lots of weird things happen there, like electrical disturbances, car batteries go dead, birds
I've never
fly
heard
into
of
that
this
courtyard and
before.
die. Yeah, check it out. It's really neat.
Oh, yes, we will be doing a lot of research. Also, and now is a good time to present the idea that Tressa and I need a show where we go to these places and see these things and then record us reacting to those things.
And then
Yes.
I
we
think
talk about
everyone
it
will be
over
happy.
drinks at the Monsters Lounge. At the
Yes.
brick and mortar. Monsters
Thank
Lounge.
you. Everybody
Yep.
write Discovery Channel and Travel Channel.
There we
Yep.
go.
And get that in there because we want to do that.
Mhm.
And so do you. You guys want that. Come on, shut up.
Everybody wants that.
Yeah, we're delightful.
All right.
Haunted War Tales. It's available now.
Everyone, yes, go into it more. Give us your full promo speech because we got
Yep. Yes,
Hey,
please.
it's available everywhere, but I suggest you go to your independent local bookstores, support small business, and then that
Yes.
hopefully gets one of my books on the shelf there also, right? So that's how I
Yes.
suggest you order it.
Do you have a website that you also sell it on?
I do not have my own website. I'm lacking. I need to get on that,
Oh,
but
that's where you
it's
can
available
find it.
everywhere. Yep.
Well,
And it's very good. I've read a couple of the chapters already, and
Thank you.
definitely interesting and things that I hadn't heard of before.
Yeah, that was definitely my goal, was stories that you haven't come across before. That's what I really wanted to do, is kind of, and especially all the new lore from Iraq and Afghanistan. No one's collected it yet. So it kind of is the seminal book for all that new stuff.
I love that because it's everyone pulls from the same old stories. We need
Yes,
new stuff, and
exactly.
you're
Yeah.
giving it. It's great. It's such a pleasure to have you on. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
joining us.
Yes,
Thank you for
very,
having
very
me on.
much.
It was wonderful.
That's great.
Had fun.
Everybody else, we will see you next week. Don't forget to check us out on the podcast platforms and subscribe and rate and review. And we'll see you next week, like I think I already said. Okay, bye.
Okay, bye.